Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Business and Economic Forum on 2A Radio. My name is Borby Bropley, and I'll be your host this evening. We have two guests here tonight, Mr. Jackson George, the president of Liba Diaspora, and Mr. Fonzia Mohammed Donzo, who is the director for supervision of the Central Bank of wait, let me get that clear. He's the Director for Regulation and Supervision Department at the Central Bank of Liberia. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and by the way, I know Mr. George, you are one of our hosts here at the show, so feel free if you want to jump in and ask some questions. But I feel like since you're the business person and Mr. Fonzia is economics, I can just kind of quarterback and ask you guys some questions to begin with.
Sure.
Is that fair? Okay,
Sure.
great. Mr. Fonzia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. At this time, I'll just like for you all to just briefly, introduce yourselves. Say a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I will start. My name is Foncia Mohamed Donzo. I work for the Central Bank of Liberia. I'm the Director for Regulation Supervision Department. My department is responsible for regulating banks, microfinance, and also fintech and mobile money companies. Our regulation also extends to money laundering and terrorist financing as well. Briefly, that's what we do.
Wow, thank you very much for that, Mr. Donzo. And Mr. George,
My,
go
my,
ahead, sir.
my name is Jackson George. I am the Executive Director of the Liberian Business Association in the Diaspora. We were organized in 2016, revamped in 2016. Our goal is to first identify all of the resources Liberian-owned businesses and minority businesses in the diaspora. Uh, the second phase of our business is to share best practices and do business. And the third is to leverage our potential and how we can also partner and do business in Liberia and to help develop the economy of our homeland.
All right, thank you very much for that, Mr. George and Mr. Donzo. Let's go ahead and jump in. This is Business and Economics, the Business and Economics Forum, Mr. Donzo. All we talk about here is business and economics, how to uplift our community. That is a Liberian community, both here in the U.S. and the diaspora, as well as in Liberia. And to do that, we wanna ask some questions here tonight. Number one, I'll start off with something that we experienced in the U.S. recently in the last 2 weeks or so. We had some issues with banking in America, where one of the larger banks or mid cap banks in the U.S., SVB, um, Silicon Valley Bank, went into some trouble and had to be more or less rescued by the government, or at least the depositors had to be rescued by the U.S. government. Um, how does something like that play out in Liberia, sir?
Thank you. You see, for the scenario you've just given with respect to SVB, banks in Liberia or even the sub-region, the West African sub-region, may not be affected by such bank failure because our banks, if you look at the cost or the causes of the failure, um, one of them had to do with the bonds that SVB had because of the
Okay.
increase in the interest rate. So the bonds value actually dropped. And because of that increase as well, customers of SVB decided that instead of crediting or borrowing money to do their business or other activities, because the cost of borrowing was high, they decided to go into their savings. And now SVB did not have much liquidity to deal with that, and they had to set up some of the bonds. And for me, I think that the mistake was that they gave too much out to the public. Full disclosure is good, but give what needs to be given. And because they announced this sales of 2 point some more billion dollars of their assets, securities, people begin to go to
To
withdraw their
panic.
money. Panic, absolutely. And because of that, there was the run on SVB. Now,
Okay.
coming to this side, you will not see most of
Liberia. Yeah.
Liberia or even the West African sub-region. You will not see most of our banks having probably relationship with SVB, whether it's corresponding banking relationship or whether they have they holding some assets of SVB, and because of the failure of SVB, these assets became worthless. No, so the failure of SVB is really having no impact on our banks in Liberia and the sub-region in general.
Well,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that. That makes all of us breathe a sigh of relief, I would say. All right, Mr. George?
yes. So thank you so much for clarifying, because I think any effect, any impact it will have will affect our economy. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, and hopefully you can answer. I'll try to do some research last night in terms of the banking institutions in Liberia, and why they close at 2 p.m. And then there is a memo from August 30th, 2000, regulations concerning banking hours. And that it was not signed. The one that I have, the document that I have, full disclosure, was never signed, but it was by Elijah E. Silibi, executive governor. And my question to you, though, what is the genesis, and why is it that banks are closed at 2 o'clock in Liberia? Many of the time when we come from the diaspora, we are a little frustrated because of the banking hours. Can you throw some light as to why all of the banks are closed at 2?
Thank you. Banks do close at 2. I know few of them now close at 3 o'clock. Um, but banks do close at 2 because they need to close at that time and be able to settle or reconcile or how do you call it, pass the necessary entries or fix their books, for the next day. So they do take deposits and they do pay out, withdrawals. So as at the end of the day, they do close by 2 o'clock so that they are able to post all of the entries in terms of the deposits, in terms of the withdrawals, do all of the reconciliation. And some of these things have to also do with other banks because checks from other banks may come to your bank and your bank check may go to other banks as well. So those checks have to go through clearing and then do the necessary settlement, do all of the different posting. But basically, the reason is that you want to give chance to the tellers to be able to close their books, do all the necessary posting, and all of that. So what we see nowadays is that most of the banks are going digital, and most of the banks are also having POSs and also ATMs. So that if you can't go to if the banking hall is closed by 2 o'clock or so or 3 o'clock, you can still have access to your account through ATMs and POSs.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Can I follow up on this, though? Um,
Please.
why it is true? I mean, if the banks close at 4 or 5, I don't see any reason why they can't do exactly what you just explained. We have a small economy. if you went to the banks, the people are on long lines early in the morning to deposit money or to withdraw money. And 2 o'clock to me is prime time in the afternoon when people are doing transacting business, and so I'm not sure why the banks cannot, all those reconciliation and transaction cannot be done after 6 o'clock in the evening.
So you see, like Liberia is not like the US, where you have different shifts for people to work. You have some people working morning shift, afternoon, night shift, and all of that. Some entities work 24 hours around the clock on your side, but for here is like 9 to 5. 9 to 5. That is the working time.
So
After
by
that
five
time,
o'clock, everybody is pretty much out the door.
absolutely. Only very
Okay.
few people you see working, and probably this will be senior staff that will work till late. But in most instances, most of the people have to go home. 5 o'clock is the time they work.
Is
So
that
if
a
you don't give,
labor law, or is just the banks just agree to just do that because they got other companies like Meta Steel and other companies that got shifts that they're running?
yeah, so Meta still has shift that they're running because they are doing production. If you allow the banks to run probably 6, 7 o'clock, uh, till 12 midnight, you pay employees, and they will not have much to do because you don't have people or customers actually going into the banks to do transactions. Even customers themselves, by 4, 5 o'clock, because of the nature of our traffic, you see people start to go home. So if you want to open a bank up to 6 o'clock, or maybe decide to have another shift after 5 o'clock, you may be incurring expenses that you may not be generating income for, because you have no one to
Yeah.
do transaction with you. So
Well, let me
to
come
deal
in.
with that, to yeah, 1 minute to deal with that. That's why you see most of the banks are actually doing ATMs. But let me say this before you come in, Bobby. Before you see long lines nowadays, I don't know when last you were here. Banking halls are almost empty nowadays because um, since this whole issue of mobile money, you see a lot of people actually utilizing mobile money, push and pull, where you are able to take money from your bank account to your mobile money account, or to take from your mobile money account to your bank account. So, like me sitting here now, I can do push and pull at this time and do transaction. And so you see, because of the convenience, the ease of doing these things, you don't find banking hall actually crowded nowadays.
Okay.
I'm not saying you don't
Well,
find
thank you
people,
so,
but they are not crowded nowadays. Yeah.
thank you very much, Mr. Donzo, for clarifying. I have banking background. I actually worked in a financial center here for one of the largest banks, and I can remember, we will close down around 4 o'clock, and then would take about an hour and a half to reconcile everything. But everything was pretty much digital. We didn't need to have a second shift, when it comes to core banking. Uh, we did have second shifts when it came to customer service, Mr. George. For instance, if somebody's debit card stopped working and they wanted to call in and talk to somebody, you have somebody to talk to,
Hmm.
or you had some problem accessing your account online, you have somebody. But core banking, it was your banking center will close by 4 o'clock, and then on Fridays, it will close a little later. I believe it was 5 o'clock. Saturdays is when we close early, like 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that's
I
that's how
think
they
four
did.
o'clock. I think 4 o'clock should be universal. I mean, for a country like ours, we want to develop. We are a developing nation. We need our banking. I mean, 2 o'clock. To me is I understand what Mr. Donso is saying, and I think he's being realistic with this situation. But I think we need to start thinking forward if we have to grow our economy and do business. Because when you're looking at small investors coming in and the banks close at 2, it's like, wow, and it's one of the things that I think the central bank need to start looking at and see, even if you can push it to 3 or 4 o'clock, but 2 o'clock, that means if you're supposed to go to the bank, and which he just explained a lot of things, but if you're supposed to go to the bank to transact business, that's the only thing you do in a day.
Well, Mr. George, let me come in. A lot of things have changed. Let me say that nowadays you go to the bank and you are able to do your transaction, and move on to do other things. But like Mr. Bropler said, in America, almost everything is digitized. So if you close at 5 o'clock, reconciliation is, just like they snap of a finger. Here, that's not the case.
Okay.
But besides that, if the economy continue to expand, these things will come naturally. The banks will see the need because there will be business out there. They will see the need. They are not, bound by 2 o'clock per se. I just told you there are few banks that are closed at 3. All you need to do is tell the central bank, look, I will be closing at 3 o'clock, and central bank gives you approval. That's why it is. And because you see, some times ago on Saturdays, banks never used to open in Liberia, but because the need for Saturday banking activities, businesses will have a lot of cash with them, and they can go to banks to deposit or to withdraw because of weekend. Banks saw the need and they asked the central bank, and then even the circular you are talking about was amended to include Saturdays.
Okay.
So they determine these things.
It's true. And another thing I noticed about Liberia is cash transactions is very heavy in Liberia. For instance, in a banking center here, we wouldn't, if you walked up to the bank and requested, Mr. Joe, if you requested for $15,000 cash, we wouldn't have it to give to you.
Correct.
You have to put in a request, or we recommend we can call over to several banking centers to collect 5,000, and then you can go collect the money, at those different locations. So I think we still I think we're evolving, but we're still at the stage where we rely on cash very heavily in Liberia. Is that the case, Mr. Donzo?
Absolutely. And this is not for Liberia alone. Let me give you an example. Nigeria has been having this cash-light society or system. That is, you can only withdraw a certain amount of money, and if you want to go beyond that, you have to pay fees. Very recently, Nigeria decided to change their currency, and the change of the currency was meant to make Nigeria to go digital. I will tell you one thing. I was in Nigeria just last week. I got to the airport and decided to change some money, US dollars, into Naira. I could not get. In fact, the first bureau told me they can only give me 10,000 Naira, which is around $15, right? Or if I need to get the cash, Naira cash, the exchange rate is around 700 to $1 US. But if I want cash, it will be 600 to $1 US. So that is the.
So how are you expected to move around? Are you expected to use US dollars?
They won't accept US dollars, and that is the problem. And not just for me, I was there for a few days. Let's forget about me. What Nigeria has done, because I just want to highlight the fact that no matter what we do, even in the US, people still need some cash. Yes, cash is so heavy here, but what Nigeria has done is also disturbing the economy. Now, the street hawkers in Nigeria, that market is almost getting extinct because no cash, to buy these things. And when I was there, the egg producers said that they were about to reduce the hens that are chickens that produce the eggs, because they produce egg, and most of the people, according to them, that actually use the egg are those small people that walk into the shop and say, look, give me 2 boiled egg, give me 3, give me 5, compared to
Okay.
those that will buy the whole cartons. And
Okay.
because the egg, the amount is so small, these people are not making business. But the point is, yes, it's true. Liberia is heavily cash, cash economy. But we are doing our best to not get rid of cash, but to reduce it significantly. And this is having some impact. Mobile money currently, transactions for mobile money is so huge. Even if you look at remittances coming from abroad, can now terminate into the mobile wallet. That never used to happen before.
Hmm.
So, so, so
Mr. Donso, let me ask you, how does that mobile money thing work?
now,
I don't
so, so,
understand.
so mobile money. How do I put it? It's like your cash app is different, but it's like your cash
Mm-hmm.
app. Let me put it that way,
Yeah.
because that the analogy I can draw right now. So the
Mm-hmm.
telecommunication companies will set
Mm-hmm.
up a subsidiary, which will be the financial institutions, to engage
Okay.
in mobile money. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
is to have electronic wallet, right?
Okay.
So
Can you
I can
buy? Is it that you can buy with your phone? You can go to a store and purchase something.
Yes, you go to the
Okay.
store.
Okay.
You
I
go to the
clarify.
stores. You go to the merchants, which
Mm-hmm.
these are the people we call the merchants, and
Yeah.
and what the companies are doing, they are actually onboarding a lot of these businesses. So you go there,
Mm-hmm.
you purchase, or you get money into your account, you transfer it to another person. Now
Okay.
you remain in America and use either Sendwave or
Yes,
other
I've used
remittance.
Sunwave before.
Yes, and transfer money to Liberia. Unlike before, where the person you transfer the money to will have to go to the bank,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
withdraw the
Or to
cash,
MoneyGram
to
or
MoneyGram
Western
or
Union.
Western Union to withdraw the cash. Nowadays, it goes straight to the mobile wallet.
But also,
Now,
Oh, okay.
I was in Liberia and I was able to use my credit cards and my debit cards directly from the US. So I think things are improving. And
absolutely.
yeah, and we can. I mean, I'm always there every 3 months. I normally use my credit cards in the stores. I bought my air condition and other stuff from just using my card. So things are improving. But one of the things I wanted to ask you though, what is the central bank uh, posture on uh, loaning to small and micro businesses in terms of working with the banking institutions, all of the banks, to ensure that small and micro businesses are funded, so that also to me can help grow our economy.
Absolutely. And you see, for the central bank, by its nature, can just give loans out like
No,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, but the central bank, because of its developmental goal, which is one of the objectives of the central bank to support the government economic development agenda,
correct.
central bank you know, with funding available, could make funding available to some of these small businesses. But besides that, central bank has come out with a lot of regulations and policies that makes it easy for these businesses to get loans and all of that. Let me give you some example. Say, for example, credit reference system.
Hmm.
So, which is like the credit bureaus, on that
Yeah.
side. Um, that gives confidence to lenders because they are able to check your credit records, especially for
Mm-hmm.
small businesses. And central bank has also set up the collateral registry. That is for movable collateral. So you see, most small businesses for banks or the big businesses will always have landed properties like house, buildings, and stuff like that to give as collateral. Small businesses
Mm-hmm.
probably will have their inventories and other movable collaterals. So central bank has actually set up the collateral registry system where if you have your inventory or you want loan and you want to assign your receivable, your salaries, these things can be registered on the collateral registry system, and it gives the lender comfort that in the event a person default, the lender has first lien on whatever that's been registered on the collateral registry system. All of these things are infrastructure that the central bank has put in place to give access to loan to small businesses.
Mr. Donso, one of the things that I think that are happening, I think there are a lot of things that are good things that are happening within the financial industry in Liberia. But I think educating the community, getting that information out to the regular people, I think that's one of the difficulties that we are facing in terms of how that information is out there for people to be able to have access to some of those things that you're talking about.
That's true, and the thing is, probably we just need to increase the coverage of what we are doing. The central bank actually has um, two talk shows in a month on EFBC, and also central bank does go to other radio station whenever we come out with the monetary policy rate. But I agree that these things need to be done, on a more sustained basis, and then with wider coverage. Besides, those some of these things that we've just spoken about, the central bank has a unit, which is within my department. We call Consumer Protection Unit. We make sure that consumers are treated fairly, and we also working with other partners so as to do this financial literacy program, because we feel that if consumers are aware of what they're supposed to do, they are empowered to do
Yeah.
more business, to make informed decision in terms of what kind of financial transactions to go into.
Yeah. Well, this conversation has been really, really interesting this evening, Mr. Donzo, and we will have to have you back with us very soon. Maybe we can have a more extended time, right, Mr. George,
Yeah.
to be able to cover more by an hour. But this has been really good. I know we told you 30 minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time. Maybe we can give some closing statements here, and then we can call it a night. So,
Bobby, how many minutes we have? I just want him to touch one more thing.
we can do 5 minutes.
So,
And then we'll
okay.
wrap it
So,
up.
so Mr. Don, so one of the things that I also wanted to ask you, what is the mechanism put in place to get up, our money? Is easily because of the kind of a majority of our people do the kind of small business. The money is dirty. The money cannot. I mean, it's tuned very fast. What a mechanism put in place to get those bad notes off the market and then put in new notes on the market?
Well, currently, if you look at the money on the market, you hardly see those tune-up notes anymore.
Okay.
All of the monies are clean notes. You see, what happened is that it had been long, more than 10 years, more than 15 years, that central bank printed money. The amount that were printed was not enough, for the economy. So as a result, you had the new banknote and the old banknote moving side by side. But this current regime of the central bank actually printed money, and the amount is sufficient, to cover, all of the old notes. And what we are doing is that the central bank is gradually withdrawing the old note from the market, and then giving a new note. As a matter of fact, you go to the banks today, the banks are under instruction not to give old notes. So if you have old note, you can deposit it, but if you want to withdraw, no, you cannot the banks cannot give you the old note. So the old notes are
New
gradually
note.
phased off, yes. And secondly, the lifespan of currency, especially in our society where we use, currency a lot, is around 2 years, 3 years. So every 2 3 years, we have to make to print new ones or additional to replace the mutilated banknotes. So that's why the central bank actually decided to make the fives and the tens with coins, because these are the two, denominations
They
that are
haven't been
used
used.
widely. Absolutely. So we made them with coins, so as to give it longer lifespan. Yeah.
Well,
What's
thank
the
you.
lifespan of the coins?
And the lifespan of the coins is around 15 years.
Well,
15 years. Okay, I thought it was even longer than that.
so Mr. Donso, you can go
Mr.
ahead and
George, you got any last things to?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, Mr. Donso has given us. I think these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having. Uh,
Absolutely.
uh, Not confrontational, but more educational, so that we get the information that we need. Most of the time, it's misinformation, disinformation that we all get, and then people get frustrated when we don't have the real information. I think he's done a good job in terms of explaining what it is. I think we need more time to focus on some of these issues, but I think he did a good job. And so, Mr. Donso, thank you for the time and educating us on some of the things. We who own businesses in Liberia and outside Liberia, we are looking for the day where we can move into digital banking, and you explain why. And I know our terrain, we have a tough terrain in terms of doing that. So, but we also
Yeah.
have to work towards that end.
Yes, thank you so much for that statement, Mr. George. Mr. Donzo will definitely love to have you back here again. I think this is a good medium, and Mr. George can bear me witness that the people in America need to hear directly from people like you so that we can understand how things are happening in Liberia and also how we can communicate. The next time we do have you on, we'll dig more into how the mechanisms that businesses in America can can integrate with their partners in Liberia, transact in order to grow the economy of Liberia better. Okay.
No problem. And
All
I'll
right.
always be willing anytime. Just let me know ahead of time, and we'll make
Oh,
ourselves available to appear.
absolutely. Hopefully next time we'll be able to see your face. I'm sure. I'm sure people would
Yeah,
love to
my
do that.
apologies. Yeah.
That's okay. Well, that will bring us to the end of the show tonight. Once again, my name is Bobby Brookler from Atlanta, Georgia, and I have my colleague Jackson George from Minnesota, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, Brooklyn Center,
Brooklyn Park.
Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and of course our guest tonight, Mr. Fonzia Mohammed Donzo of the Central Bank of Liberia. He's the director of regulate. Oh my God, I gotta get this title right.
Regulations and supervising.
It's regulation
Regulation.
supervision.
It's super.
Oh,
Yeah, director of Regulation and Supervision Department, Central
Right.
Bank of Liberia. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. All right. Pastor Blay, I see you on. So we're
Thank you so much,
wrapping it
Donzo.
up.
I was listening in the back, and like Bobby rightly said, we need to have you back on this forum because the information we need more of that. And yourself, you told us that central bank doing awareness, but I think they come on the radio twice. They need to do more than what they are doing because like the marketeers, I don't think they listen to the radio as you know like they should. So maybe the more awareness, the better it's going to be. And we want to say thank you so much, Mr. George. Thank you too. And
Thank you.
it was good having you on the platform to a radio and TV.
thank
We
you,
will.
guys.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Mr.
Bye
George,
bye.
please don't go. I need to talk to you
Bye.
briefly before. Please don't go.
Okay.